Hi, and welcome to another episode of Starship Gaming. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell if you want notifications of when we make more awesome videos. Now, before we get started, I am going to address a few things about a couple videos we released in the past week or so. So, the first thing I want to say is I appreciate everybody's comments and opinions. It really, I actually do read them all, unlike most other YouTubers. I do read every single comment, so I thank you for your comments. But I also want to address one of the videos that we've been making a lot lately about the Atari VCS. First of all, I'm honestly bored of talking about it, so I probably won't be doing a video on it for a while, at least until we get a definite, when it will be released. Of course, like I said in my last video, or one of my past videos, there was the possibility of it being released on March 31st, which that's the only release date to go by. So, that's all we can say. That's what others are saying. That's what other websites are confirming, that they're saying it's going to be released on March 31st. Of course, like I said, don't hold your breath. And that really is the only information that we can go on at this time. I mean, that's just what's out there. So, we are going to take a break from Atari VCS videos for a while. And of course, we will continue talking about the Intellivision Amico. We will continue talking about that, but there has not been any recent information on that lately. Now, let's go ahead and jump into today's video, which is a review video. So I am going to do a review of the Legends Flashback, particularly the 100 built-in games model. Now, let me give you a little backstory of how I decided to get one. So, last night, I was in my local Walmart, and I was just wandering around their electronics section, and, I was looking for something new that I didn't have. I was mostly there for Xbox One and Nintendo Switch games. I did end up getting an Xbox One game, but I went down their discount aisle where they put, last year's stuff, stuff that's, getting a new version soon, and they got to get rid of the old version, And I looked down, and they had the Legends Flashback for $25, brand new. I was like, I can't believe it. I was just at Sam's Club, a week before, and they had these for, $49. I'm like, well, $25, I'll give it a try for $25. So I went ahead and picked one of these up, and I took it home and plugged it up. Now let's start the review portion. So, straight out of the box, you have your front box like this. This thing was obviously Disney sponsored, so Disney, and of course it's an AtGames product. AtGames product, products, they're hit or miss. Depends on, on what they are. But I would say AtGames is responsible for bringing back the resurgence in retro gaming. I mean, a lot of people give them flack for, some of their stuff's been kind of crappy quality over the years, but a lot of people don't give them enough credit, because if it wasn't for VAM and, a few other companies like Retron, retro games would be dead in the water right now. There would, the new generation. AtGames is responsible, along with Retron. Mostly AtGames because of all the retro-style games. If it wasn't for AtGames, a lot of kids wouldn't have been introduced to the retro games. And I gotta say, give them credit. Don't bash them for what they do. They have done a lot for the gaming community, especially the retro gaming community. So give them credit. So got this thing home. You look at the box, a lot of Disney stuff. I think the most interesting is Fix-It Felix Jr., which, if you don't know what that is, it's a fictional game from Wreck-It Ralph There's actually a few years ago, actually in the past 3 or 4 years, if you look around on eBay, Fix-It Felix Jr. Sega Genesis cartridges, bootleg cartridges, have been floating around. So, I don't know if this was based on anything pre-existing or what. I do know that around the time that Wreck-It Ralph came out, Disney had like a Wreck-It Ralph, not Wreck-It Ralph, but Fix-It Felix arcade unit with an actual functional Fix-It Felix game. Which I'll talk about that game in just a minute. I'm gonna pick out like a few games and talk about them, because there's literally 100 games on this system. But yeah, a lot of Disney stuff. There's also a lot of stuff from Acclaim, Namco, Capcom, all of the good stuff. There's even a version of the I believe it was the arcade version of Tetris. But yeah, you get it home, first thing you do, you look at the box, and then you look at the back. Yeah, there's my hand right there, my finger. Looks kind of creepy in this picture. It was dark. I took this picture in my car. You could it's kind of hard to see, but you could see some of the games that it has. Super Star Wars. It has all 3 of the Super Star Wars games, which, I'm not a huge fan of those, but I like those games. Of course, I mentioned Tetris, Fix-It Felix, that's on there. Zombies Ate My Neighbor is on this, which for $25, that's a great deal instead of just buying a Zombies Ate My Neighbor cartridge. Unless you're a purist and you want the cartridge, then you might want that. And then it's got some other classic stuff like Mappy. Mega Man 1 and 2 is both on this system, and The Lion King, Aladdin, Super Street Fighter 2, Bad Dudes is on this, 1942. There's all kinds of stuff. Like, I could literally sit here and name them all off. It's Judge Dredd. I'm pretty sure it's the Sega Genesis version, but a lot of these games are either the arcade versions, the ColecoVision. I don't think there's any Atari versions on this one. AtGames had made Atari systems, mini ones with built-in games. It's just got a lot of really good stuff on it. So, as soon as you open it, you have your console. The little console is more or less based on the same shell that the little mini Sega Genesis systems were that AtGames made, for the past few years. They just recently discontinued making those in 2018. Probably has something to do with, the new Sega Genesis Mini that was just released, which is, I plan on getting one of those eventually, but at the price of this right now, it's just not worth it. But you get one of these, comes with 2 Sega Genesis style controllers. You get your power cord. The only complaint I have about it is you do not get an HDMI cable with this. They could have bundled like a cheap one and I wouldn't have cared, but nope. You have to supply your own HDMI cable. So, not really a big complaint, but, So, you hook it up, you turn it on, and you're greeted with all these games. They're all categorized, by the way. And, you pick which one you want. And the cool thing about this is it has save and resume for games. But the only problem with that is I tried it on a few games and it did not work properly. Not always. I mean, it did work, but not always. I tried it with The Lion King and Mega Man, and it just didn't, sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, so, yeah. But you have all these classics on there, and it's actually, even at $49, it's a good deal. That's the normal going price. But my local Walmart, I don't know if it's just it or any of the other Walmarts, but they had this thing for $25. Of course, it has wired controllers, which I like those. The Sega Genesis ones that AtGames was making, they came with like, I think it might have been infrared, like how TV remotes have. Those had a lot of problems from my understanding. I think it was infrared. It might not have been. It might have been something else. I don't believe it was, Bluetooth or anything like that. It was cheap, trust me. But the controllers, you get them out of the box. They are kind of cheap feeling. I mean, you can tell, from weight and everything and the feel of them, they are very, very cheap. But the thing about it is they have the same, ports pretty much as a Sega Genesis controller. So in the event that these broke, you could probably just use your standard Sega Genesis controller to replace them. Of course, vice versa, you could use one of these probably on a Sega Genesis and they would work perfectly fine. I haven't tested that myself, but it's more than likely, it more than likely would work. And of course, probably compatible with the Atari 2600 joysticks, but I mean, come on, who really wants to try that? As to, another feature on the Legends Flashback, I know I'm kind of all over the place with this. I really like this thing. You can rewind games, which is a feature, that it's been introduced on these consoles with built-in games. So let me talk about a few of the games on it. The first thing I'll talk about, of course, is Fix-It Felix Jr., which is based on a fictional game from the movie Wreck-It Ralph. I honestly do not like it. It's one of those games, it's kind of hard to get used to. Something about it I just don't like. I mean, it was probably better off being fictional. And then, of course, I want to bring up two at the same time here. Aladdin and The Lion King, both Disney games originally released by Virgin Games back in, I believe, 93 and 94, respectively. They play pretty good. They play just like the original Sega Genesis versions. Of course, my only complaint is they kind of lag. I'm kind of used to, just the fast-paced movement on them, and they kind of lag a little bit. Not a real big complaint, but it's enough to where it's noticeable. And then, of course, it has all three of the Super Star Wars games, which, of course, those have always been insanely hard. But I thought they were nice additions to this little console. So, because there are no other formats to play the Super Star Wars games on unless you download the original, which is available on PlayStation, on the PlayStation Network store. I guess that's what you call it. You can download it, which I did a couple years ago, back in, I believe it was 2015 or 2016 that I did. But yeah, those three games are on the system. And then, of course, you have Mega Man 1 and 2, which, both play pretty good. A little bit of a noticeable lag, but not enough to really affect gameplay any. So that's just a sampling of some of them. I mean, I could sit here and go over all the games and tell you about every single one. I haven't even played every single one. I've only probably tried out maybe 15 or 16 of them, so I'm going to be trying this thing out for weeks, to try out all the games and play them for a little bit and whatnot. But if I were you, I would be checking my local Walmart today. They may have this discounted. The reason why is I believe AtGames is having a new model of this come out. This is actually came out in 2019, but I believe that they are having a new model of this coming out this year in 2020. You may want to check your local Walmart and see if they have these discounted. Even if they don't, at $49.99, or if you can find it less than that. These are actually a really good pickup. Of course, this is the model that has 100 built-in games. So definitely, if you can get your hands on one of these, definitely check it out, because I highly recommend it. It's not high tech like some of the other ones out there are, and it's not fancy, but I would say give it a try. It's honestly worth the value. I mean, the games are pretty high quality for it. They didn't put any filler materials here, hardly. I mean, there's a few, but not enough that are, worth worrying about. Like, they actually put some pretty high quality things on this little, console, if you can call it that. Some people refer to them as micro consoles, or, dedicated consoles, whatever you want to call it. But, yeah, if you come across one of these, grab it up. It is totally worth the money. I'm being 100% honest about this. Of course, they have, AtGames has new models of these come out every year. I don't plan on grabbing every single model that comes out year after year. I might pick up another one if they have one, 2 or 3 years from now. But, this is a nice little, nice little thing they have going here with this. And I have to applaud AtGames. They did a really great job with this little console. So, that is my review of the Legends Flashback. Hope you enjoyed it. Tell me in the comments down below, do you have one? If so, what do you think about it? And if you don't, do you plan on getting one? Or do you plan on not getting one? Let me know. Of course, if you notice on a few of my past videos, I have disabled the comments on a few of them. The reason why is, just simply the some of the stuff in them is out of date, and if you notice on any of our episodes that they're disabled, that's just why. The information's out of date, and there's not really anything more to talk about it. So I just wanted to bring that up briefly if you've noticed that. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit the bell if you want notifications of when we make more awesome videos. And until next time, I will see ya.